I want to come here today and I want to talk about the book The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I want to start right off the bat. This is not going to be a video that is art criticism. I'm not going to be doing a book review. I'm not going to be critiquing the book. I'm critiquing the ideas in the book, right? I'm not going to be talking about Julia Cameron's art, anything like that. Obviously, if you guys have been watching for any duration of time, you know that's antithetical to what we do here, right? But Julia Cameron has a lot of ideas in this book that are very similar to what we talk about here every day on this channel, right? Ideas in art creation, what art is, how you can get better at art, stuff like that, right? And I want to kind of talk about this book in two dimensions, like we often like to separate ideas in this channel. I think it's a good exercise to talk about it in these two dimensions. First of all, functionally, talk about it there. Second of all, I want to talk about it more on a idea level, right? Because functionally, I actually have very positive thoughts on this book. The biggest pieces of advice that Julia Cameron gives are things like, well, not things like, they are the artist pages, right? The artist pages are every morning, right? 3 pages of free handwriting. Start your day. It's almost a sort of meditation, as she posits it. She also recommends the artist's date, right? Setting a time and a place every week where you will just sit and chill with your inner artist, right? And that's cool. Those things are both cool. If you're somebody who is struggling to create or like not able to find the time to create or in a rut or anything, these two things can be like miracles. They can actually be insanely beneficial, and I recommend these two things to anybody, right? But I do need to throw out there too, they're not the most revolutionary ideas, right? We've all heard of keeping a journal before. It's a little different than 3 pages of free handwriting, but a lot of people journal right in the morning, and I don't know, is there anything that's not 100% freehand, or not like a free stream of consciousness, right? Like if you're, I don't know, I feel like most people when they're journaling don't try to write a novel. They try to do it relatively stream of consciousness and get their thoughts down. So I don't find that to be the most revolutionary. And the second piece of advice is just make time to do stuff. And like, I could have cracked that. No, I don't mean to be demeaning, or not demeaning, reductive. I don't mean to be reductive here. I think these are good pieces of advice. However, I think that what often happens with this book is that it ends up, people read it, right? And then the get results, because these are two very, very good pieces of advice. And if you read this book, if you invest enough and you're like, I'm going to do this, then it will, like, you're going to see results. And then you're going to be like, wow, this book did it for me. This book was right. This had good ideas. This was a correct book. And that is where I think there's an issue, right? Because I want to separate the results this book can give you from the ideas within the book. The other thing I will say here right off the bat before we jump into the ideas portion of this is that if you are somebody who is newer to creating, this book is definitely aimed towards people who are kind of like looking to get more creative in their lives, who aren't as creative as they like to be, right? That's definitely the audience of this book. She talks a lot about people who abandoned their inner artists as children, who stopped making and doodling and stuff like that, and I think it could be good for that. Honestly, this is tough because I'm just so far from that. I don't even mean to say that in a way of like, oh, look at me, I'm an artist, I make stuff every day. But like, it's a reality that I do just still stay really in tune with all my creative hobbies. I'm doing them 24/7. I love them. It's, I build my friends around them and all that stuff. Like, it's kind of my life. So it's impossible for me to sit in the shoes of somebody who is, struggling to create or be like, oh man, like I'm not an artist, and try to get into it, right? It's kind of impossible if you sit in the shoes of those people. I do think that it'd probably be good though. Like if I'm gonna guess, I think it'd probably be good. And dare I say, I would recommend this book to you if you are that person. If you're somebody who's been watching these like, man, it looks fun painting. I wish I was painting sometimes instead of just listening. Then maybe this is the book for you. Clearly, a bunch of other people have said it is. So that's good. The other thing that I've heard, just another note on a functional level, I'm not in LA. I've never been to LA. So I don't know how true this is. Everybody, like I've heard, it's a kind of a meme, like literally everyone in LA is apparently reading this book. If that's true, this is just me being a biased New York City liver, but yeah, no, I don't like the book because, I don't know, I feel like I need to say that, right? Like, isn't that, like, don't I have beef with LA as somebody who lives in New York? Like, isn't that the whole thing? I don't know. I just feel like I gotta like kind of rep, so I don't like that. I also do think on a more serious note, like, a lot of creativity or perceived creativity comes from your uniqueness and is coming from like what you're consuming that causes you to make the things that you make. So I feel like if everybody is reading this thing, it might be more, if anything, of like a trend. And when ideas are trends, they can either become movements or they can just lead to a lot of unoriginality. And from my knowledge, I don't think there's a new art movement that's burgeoning from this. I'm gonna be like, this is just me being real. My thoughts about this. Maybe they're a little bit pretentious if I'm being honest. So sorry about that. But as somebody who is a New Yorker and has to stand on the fact that they're a New Yorker, because like I feel like I have to, because like I can't do that. So I feel like, I don't know. I just don't like hearing like everybody else is reading this right now and it's like a goofy thing that they're reading this, because I feel like then it's just going to lead to unoriginality, and I don't like that kind of thing. I think that having a consumption is a very important part of creating art. You know what I mean? If you're reading a bunch of French novels, you're going to end up writing stuff that's a little bit more in tune with that, right? I think that's a part of this whole process that's maybe talked about not as much. So I think that it is important to consider something like that when going into a book like this that's literally marketed as like, this is going to affect your creativity. That's the whole point of this book. And, you know, I think it's important to be aware that a ton of other people are reading it. And do you want to be the same type of creative as all these other people? I don't know. That's a pretentious New York take, so maybe sidebar that. Maybe I should edit that out. I'm not going to, but maybe I should. Now, the ideas, right? There's two main things that I don't like about this book. The two ideas that I really don't like here. One, I think Julia Cameron just tries to make art way too spiritual. And I'm open to the idea that art is a spiritual process. I think it's cool. I think it's fun to experiment with. I have a video coming tomorrow on spirituality and art, and I think that there's a lot of connection there. And cool, like I'm open to this, right? I don't dislike this idea. However, if you're making a book that is literally prescriptive advice on how to be creative, and you have to link it to the idea of a god, I think that's problematic right off the bat. I don't like that, right? One, a little bit not inclusive, right? The fact of the matter is, not people that believe in God are the ones making art. Humans are the ones making art, and there is a wide variety of opinions on God, right? Some of the greatest artists of all time have been atheists. This is a fact, right? So how are we going to say there is a 100% link here? Julia Cameron, in my opinion, kind of weaves around legitimizing this idea by being like, it's more of a spirituality, it's an energy, it can be whatever you want it to be. No, like, is this a concrete framework that you're going to prescribe advice to everybody off of? Or is this just saying shit to say shit? Because if it's just saying shit to say shit, that's cool. I do that all the time. I do that every day here. I mean, there are videos on this channel where I have gotten nowhere on any topic at all, and I've had a great time doing it. But I think if you are about to give people action steps, not only give people action steps, but to give people action steps while being like, and this is how it all works, this is the framework that you exist in and are taking these action steps within, you gotta make that more concrete. And that's, I think, my core problem with The Artist's Way. This book doesn't know if it wants to be a self-help book that's going, you should do these pages and you should do this and, just go, try it, face your fears, or if it wants to be a genuine work of art philosophy. Now, art philosophy is not a real field, right? I think that's what's so interesting about art philosophy, actually. And so that's kind of what we do here every day, right? We philosophize about art, sometimes other things. More recently, I feel like a lot of other things, but namely art on this channel, we philosophize about, right? And I think that art philosophy is not a real field, but everybody partakes in it all the time. Like Kant has massive libraries of work on art philosophy. not the last chapter, but I think the third to last chapter in Plato's Republic is just like pure art philosophy. I think it's like Poetry and Unrealities, the name of the chapter or something, right? Like, this is a long tradition of philosophy. It's not a specific branch of philosophy. It probably falls under another one, but like, it is a thing. And like, if you are going to make something that is doing that, you got to do it, right? There's a reason why on the back of The Artist's Way, it says self-help, right? It says self-growth book. And I just think, like, if you are going to create something like that and have it be a self-help book or a philosophy book, you gotta choose one or the other, right? Like, meditation, stoicism. This is a great example of philosophy that people have turned into self-help recently that is clearly helping people, and more power to them. That's great, right? I have disagreements with the philosophy myself, but that's a philosophy that people are taking their own practical steps after. I don't think it's possible, though, and I'm sure there's examples in history that perhaps disprove this, but I'm yet to see one, to make a work of philosophy that is, it'd be like, you do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. Like, I don't like that. I don't think that works, right? And Julia Cameron attaching the idea of God to be inherent within this process of art, I don't think that works. I don't think that's a good thing to do. I think maybe you could make statements that don't have to be. There's ways to do what she wants to do that don't involve God. And that's why I think this is bad, right? Because so much of what philosophers try to do, so much of what thinking is trying to remove your biases from things, right? Like, that's the huge, like, David Hume's, like, the goat of this, right? I can't believe I just referred to somebody as the goat, and it's David Hume. But he's the best at this, where everything he's doing is looking at philosophy that came before him and going, that's an assumption you made, that's an assumption you made. I feel like Julia Cameron does this, she does the opposite of this, where she's just making assumptions. Like, she just clearly has a belief in some spiritual way and is imprinting that onto this new thing. You could get around it without it having to be spiritual. If you want to make something, this is the intuition that you have. Intuition's not spiritual, intuition just exists, right? And we don't actually understand how it fully exists, or how it fully operates, right? So you can totally do that and it would work. I don't like that you have to attach spirituality to this. I don't think it works. I think it actually puts a really rocky foundation for all these ideas to exist on. The second idea, or the second thing that really bothers me of the ideas of this book on a philosophical level, I guess, because she is like half trying to do a work of philosophy in this, is her use of Carl Jung. Like, whenever she says something about, like, your inner child fears art because of this, she's like, Carl Jung once said, and then quotes Carl Jung as if he is right. Like, Carl Jung's a lot of things. Very interesting, very, very great reading material. I mean, he's an interesting guy. He has some crazy ideas. Cool guy, cool ideas. Listen, I've read Jung. I like Jung. I think he's really cool. Not a psychologist. Very little of that work is actually concrete. Like none of it, guys. There's a reason why, like, philosophy nerds are the people that read Carl Jung. If you go to a therapist and they have Carl Jung and they're reading that to reference how they're going to treat you, you need to run, because this guy's not a psychologist. Like, the field of psychiatry is done. Interesting books, interesting ideas, and I think they're super interesting to philosophize about. I'll go as far as saying, I think someday in the future they'll find his ideas to be maybe a little bit more accurate than we even think they are now, right? But he's not a legitimate source. There is basically no difference between me being like Carl Jung said and going like, by the way, I just made that up. This is what that bothers me about this, right? You're setting up this self-help book that's half a work of philosophy, and you're putting that philosophy to lie on a theological basing, which is already extremely rocky and alienates half the readers, which philosophy about art should not do, because humans as a species create art, right? That's already rocky. And then on top of that, you legitimize what you're saying using a fancy Swiss name that a lot of people are going to read and go, Carl Jung, wow, that's really interesting. Carl Jung, that's Carl Jung right there. Of course I got to listen to what this guy's saying. And then you will have your ideas legitimized in this roundabout way that, to me, I'll say it, I feel is a little bit dishonest. I don't like how that happens. And one of the things I hate accusing people of is being dishonest, but the way these ideas function is very dishonest, I think, when you get to the core of it, right? And the worst part about this is I don't even inherently disagree with the ideas, just the basing that she lies them on in this book really bother me. And as somebody, I think I'd love this book if I was less into this stuff. Like if I was somebody who liked creating art and like it was a hobby, it is a hobby because I don't get money off this. I'm not exactly rolling in dough, but like if I was somebody who just like was more casually into this and didn't like come here and make videos being like, I'm going to just think really deeply about this topic in art for the next 10 minutes or 20 minutes or however long these are. Maybe I think I really like this, but I think because of how universal art is and how my ideas have developed about it over the years, I find this work to be bullshit, to be honest. So that's my critique of The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Totally recommend reading if you're in the place too. If you are somebody who wants to get more creative, wants to take the framework of writing these 3 freehand pages and making an artist date every week, I think that's great. I think there's a lot of benefits to doing these things. I don't like all the religion stuff. Like, it's, you know what it is? It's like, I'm gonna give you this great way of doing things. And then it's like, they try to like slip in like a little bit of religion along the way. And that's weird. Like, I don't think that's good to do in a work of philosophy or a work of self-help. I think you need to either distinguish what's going on between these 3, because when you put them all together like this, it has like a veneer of being disingenuous and like almost like trickery. It's almost trickery, I'd say. I don't know, guys. I'm getting way too passionate about this. It's 2 a.m. the time of recording this, and I'm bouncing off the walls now because of The Artist's Way. And I didn't think I'd get so fired up about this, but I gave the book to a friend because I couldn't look at it on my shelf anymore. I think he's the kind of guy that would really do well with it, though. I think he'd really like it. So, yeah, I'm glad about that. But this is the painting. Something weird is happening with these colors, guys, where they just get like brown in them for no reason. I think it's probably because this is my thing of, this is disgusting. This is my thing of mineral oils that I use, or mineral spirits that I use as a paint thinner because a real paint thinner is too expensive. So I've been using that for this whole series. Not that one specifically, I change out the water, but, or not the water, the mineral spirits inside of it. But since I can't actually like get a nice one, that's what I've been using. And I think it's led to the paint getting muddy and the brushes getting, like these brushes were white when I first bought them. Whoa. You'll have to take my word for it. They were white, so yeah, that's that. Follow the Instagram when all these color block series go up. Look out for that. Until next time, guys, gals, and pals, my name is Max Dice. This has been Paint Talk episode 214. I'm here every morning, painting and talking with you all. I really need to get to bed.